Hari Om, Sukumarji, please comments.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunatu Sahabhiryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakodi Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niradam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Om Pradasmarami Hridi Samspuradatma Tattvam Sachit Sugam Paramaham Sagadim Turiyam Yasopna Jagara Sushuptama Vaidi Nityam Tadbrahma Nishkalamaham Najabhuda Sankaha Pradarbhajami Manasa Vacha Samagamyam Vacho Vibhanti Nikilaya Danugrahena Yennedi Nedi Vachaner Nigamavavucho Santeva Deva Majamachudamahuragram Pradharnamami Tamasa Paramarkavarnam Purnam Sanadana Padam Purushottamakyam Yasminnidam Jagadasheshamasheshamurto Rajvam Bhujangamaiva Pratibhasidam Vai. Pranasedam Vache Sarvam Pritiveya Pratishtitam Mateva Putran Rakshasva Srinya Prajnam Chaviteyana Iti. महालक्ष्म्याष्टकम्। नमस्तेस्तु महामाये श्रीपीठे सुरपूजिते शङ्खचक्रगदाहस्ते महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। नमस्ते गरुडारूढे कोलासुरभयङ्करि सर्वपापहरे देवी महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। सर्वज्ञे सर्ववरदे सर्वदुष्टभयङ्करि सर्वदुःखहरे देवी महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। सिद्धिबुद्धिप्रदे देवी भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदायिनी मन्त्रमूर्ते सदा देवी महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। आद्यन्तरहिते देवी आदिशक्ति महेश्वरी योगजे योगसम्भूते महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। स्थूल सूक्ष्म महारौद्रे महाशक्ति महोदरे महापापहरे देवी महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। पद्मासनस्थिते देवी परब्रह्मस्वरूपिणी परमेशी जगन्माते महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। श्वेताम्बरधरे देवी नानालङ्कारभूषिते जगस्थिते जगन्माते महालक्ष्मी नमोऽस्तुते। महालक्ष्म्याष्टकस्तोत्रं यः पठेत् भक्तिमान् नरः सर्वसिद्धिमवाप्नोति राज्यं प्राप्नोति सर्वदा। एककालं पठे नित्यं महापापविनाशनं द्विकालं यः पठे नित्यं धनधान्यं समन्वितः त्रिकालं यः पठे नित्यं महाशत्रुविनाशनं महालक्ष्मीर्भवे नित्यं प्रसन्ना वरदा शुभाम्। महालक्ष्मीर्भवे नित्यं प्रसन्ना वरदा शुभाम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः तन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवे वेदे साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषत् गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः। Slokas 1 to 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Krishna Paramatmani Namaha. Adha Ashtamodhyayah Akshara Brahma Yogaha. Arjuna Uvacha Kim Tad Brahma Kimadhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञकथं गोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदना प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरः विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चादिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां परा अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कळेभरम् यः प्रयाति समद्भावं यादि नास्त्यत्र संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कळेबरम् तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम् अणोरणीयां समनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य दातारं चिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपेति दिव्यम् ॐ तत्सत्
Hari Om.
हरि ओम्
We'll cover the recap. Meenakshi, please.
Hari Om. So the verses 5 and 6, there are few concepts which are being highlighted. The first concept with which the verse 5 starts with is always keeping in mind that the ego identifies with the body and stays with the body as long as it meets those desired experiences, and then it moves on to get new bodies, new experiences. That's and any thought which is predominant at the time of death is something which continues towards its next existence. So then the verse talks about the powerful last willing, which is determined by the last thought. Now this is determined by the kind of thoughts which are cultivated throughout the life. So a person who in discrimination has always lived, has always understood the futility of merely living an animal life, and wants to release and wants to have a more release himself from the flesh, moves on to a life which moves on to a different embodiment which is more contemplative. And also knowing Lord, so it's not as simple as just while at the moment of death you are just thinking about the Lord or just saying Hare Krishna or something. It is also knowing Lord internally. So knowing Lord in all the aspects, the Adi Yagna, Adi Daiva, Adi Bhuta, knowing actually Lord as the ruler of all these aspects. And then the verse 6, it talks about the whosoever at the end of body thinks of any being, to that being alone he goes. Because of the constant thought of the object, at the moment of death, instinctively thoughts would run towards the habitual channel. So it also means cultivating the right thoughts throughout your life. So throughout our lives, if we cultivate the right thoughts and instinctively and consciously live, and keeping that in mind, consciously keep this in mind as a background and move forward, then cultivating those thoughts at the end of the life becomes easier. And with that, then there's a verse 7. How do you cultivate it? Is where the verse 7 starts from. Hari Om.
Hari Om, thank you. Now we'll call Mithalji to read this one.
Hari Om. Om Chinmay Sadguruve Namaha. I'll start with shloka number 7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mai arpita mano buddhi mameva eshasya samshayam. Tasmat, therefore, sarveshu, in all, kaleshu, in times, mam, me, anusmara, remember, yudhya, yudhya, fight, cha, and mai, arpita manobuddhi, with mind and intellect fixed or absorbed in me, mam, to me, eva, alone, eshasya, you shall come to uh, asamshayam, doubtless. Therefore, at all time, remember me and fight with mind and intellect fixed or absorbed in me. You shall doubtless come to me alone. Since the path for the individual to walk up to the pinnacles of perfection is led by the evolving thoughts, an individual life must be lived against and constant background music of the divine awareness. When only half understood, this stanza would kill the generation. Fully understood, it can make the very same generation to constitute the best evolved society in the world. Looking around, one will have to sadly say that our Hindu brethren have chosen to cling to their practical understanding of this sacred declaration in their divine Bible. Constantly remembering me is the half statement which the so called religious practitioners try to live in homes and streets, shops and fields, and a rare few in the jungles. But almost all of them, under their practices, within a very short time and in utter disgust, they curse themselves for their unfortunate mistake in trying to live the religious life. Such melancholy desperados move about like corpses, daring neither to throw religion to the winds nor to maintain any more enthusiasm to live in by it. The majority belongs to this misguided groups who carry religion upon their skin that covers a bleeding heart of disappointment and buzzing head of unfulfilled desires. The Gita, as a practical textbook of religion, exhaustively chalks out how Vedanta can be faithfully lived in life. Not only that we try to live in constant awareness of the divine possibilities in us and the ultimate reality behind the world and the happenings around us, but each student of Vedanta should diligently and efficiently fight on his battle of life. Every scripture is a mirror that reflects faithfully the student's own mind and intellect. Many are the unprepared ones who had come to read the Gita and even write commentaries upon it. It reminds us of Don Quixote and his old horse charging against windmills and last posts to fight the demon that had imprisoned and kept his love queen in bondage. When we read some commentaries wherein the stanza is invoked to declare that every student of Gita must fight, all intelligent readers understand that the Gita primarily is an advice to Arjuna in a given specific situation wherein he gets ready to run away from a field of action in which he is called upon to act and to win. The poet philosopher Vyasa certainly employs here a pun on the word fight. It applies to Arjuna as a direct advice and to all generations of Gita students as an indirect instructions to fight the battle of their own lives. No religion can continuously serve the society unless it gives its faithful followers instructions and guidance on how best they can live their day-to-day life. Here is an instruction which is at once applicable in the secular fields of living and in the divine realms of life. Here is a simple instruction by which not only the standard of living can be raised, but also the standard of life can be divinized. There are many who suspect that this method of splitting the mind between religion and life is detrimental to true success in either of them. This, in fact, is a thoughtless argument. Hardly ever is man's mind totally invested where his hands function. Ordinarily, a major portion of the mind all the time wanders in the jungles of dreadful fears, or in the caves of jealousies, or into the deserts of imaginary possibilities of failures. Instead of thus wasting the total mental energy and the dynamism, Krishna advises us that a truly successful man, striving to achieve the highest, both in the outer world of plurality and in the realms within, should rest his mind in the soft and peaceful feet of truth. He can then pour out the entire wealth of his capacities into the actions in hand, and thereby assure for himself the highest laurels both here and in the hereafter. In Hinduism, religion is not divorced from life. If they are separated, both of them will die away. They are as intimately connected as the head and the trunk. Separated from the other, neither can live. Even while living through the turmoils of existence, a true seeker must learn to keep his mind continuously upon the awareness of his real nature and the substratum of the world in one vast embrace of blissful homogeneity. This is not difficult, nor is it impracticable. An actor playing the part of a king in a drama can never completely forget that he has a wife and a child in his own home on the outskirts of the city. If he forgets this personal identity and acts as a king even outside the stage, he will immediately be segregated and moved to a lunatic asylum for the safety of the society. He is efficient as an actor because he constantly remembers his own real identity. Similarly, even with continuous cognition of our divine nature, we can act in the world without any hindrance and thereby add a glow to our achievements and soften the reaction of any disappointments that we might meet with life's pilgrimage. A truly educated man never forgets his education. It becomes part and parcel of his very nature, and in every thought, action, and word of his, he brings out the fragrance of his education. So too, the man of constant awareness will act in the world as a mastermind. All his actions soaked in selflessness, all his thought flavored with love, and all his feeling matured in kindness. This is the secret by which the Vedic civilization enchanted the world of their times and compelled the adoration of all later generations. The moment we forget this, the decadence of Hinduism started. Even the greatest heroes like Arjuna become hysterical creatures, psychologically shattered and intellectually incapacitated to meet the challenges of life. As a Hindu evangelist, Krishna is giving in the Gita the right direction to the current of the Hindu revival movement set at the time of Mahabharata. When an individual has thus satisfied all the reasonable calls of duty made by the society, he not only becomes a faithful member of the society, but also evolves culturally until at last he comes to soar to the highest in the spiritual stature. This is not possible merely by putting on some mark on the forehead or by wearing the hair on the head in a particular fashion. So also wearing a thread across the trunk is no guarantee for spiritual evolution. These physical parapher paraphernalia can be useful only if we know how to make use of them. If I purchase a radio but live by it in a remote village where there is no electricity, I will enjoy no music in my humble hut. By consulting a mirror, a blind man cannot know the beauty of his face. Krishna is here very expressively clear when he says that an individual who lives a life of battle to win righteous profit in his constant remembrance of the Lord, his mind and intellect get absorbed in me. Following the above Gita chapter 8, 5 and 6 theory of as you think so you become, you shall come to me. When once the mental equipment gets absorbed in the self through the process of constant contemplation on the self with single pointed devotion. Shloka number 8. अभ्यास योग युक्तेन चेतसा न अन्यगामिना paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan abhyasa yoga yuktena, made steadfast by the method of habitual meditation, chetasa, with the mind, na anyagamina, not moving towards any other things, paramam, supreme, purusham, purusha, divyam, thus resplendent, yati goes, partha, O partha, anuchintayan, meditating. With the mind not moving towards any other things, made steadfast by the method of habitual meditation and constantly meditating on the Supreme Purusha, this resplendent Om Partha, he goes to him. The term death mentioned here does not mean only the physical death, but also the death of the ego, which is to be brought about through the steady practice of meditation. This stanza is added to the discourse to show that after the sublimation of the limited ego, one can live in fully godly awareness as a liberated Godman even here while living this very life. One who is practicing the above method of living in the world as a sojourner therein and not as a native of it, and who is training the mind constantly to rest upon the contemplation of the self, become single pointed in his concentration. This, in fact, is a revolutionary interpretation of the techniques of the prayer and concentration, upasana, as mentioned in the Vedas, and also the method of devotion and surrender championed in the Purans. While what is advised is the preceding stanza, is religion lived in the marketplace, the everyday sannyasa for the man of action in the very field of his own activity. By this practice, the devotee develops single pointedness of the mind, which helps to integrate his intellect with such tuned up and nobly adjusted instrument of perfection and comprehension and intuitive realization of the divine. The self becomes easy. Dwelling on the supreme resplendent Purusha, O son of Partha, one goes to him with integrated mind. Whatever the individual meditates upon intensively, he must come to gain it immediately. Thus, the stanza indicates a great significance than what has been so far declared. This realization of the self and thereby gaining one's identity with it can actually take place in this very same life. If with prepared mind and intellect, one can, with steadfastness, meditate upon me, the supreme resplendent Purusha. The term Purusha, as applied to the self, is a philosophical nomenclature borrowed from the Sankhya contrast of the self, Purusha, with the not self, Prakriti, and the self is considered resplendent, Divya. The term that has been used to indicate the one who meditates upon the self, Anuchintayan, is very significant. Thoughts of the same species made to run towards one fixed illumining goal is an unbroken flow. Uh, are made meditation. The prefix anu in Anuchintayan provides a significant meaning of the continuity of the flow of thoughts in one determined channel of contemplation. Um, my reflection on shloka 7 and 8 uh, is that having assured in shloka number 5, as Meenakshi ji said, you know, that whatsoever living the body goes forth, remembers me alone at the time of death, he attains my being. There is no doubt about it. In shloka number 6, it is whosoever at the end leaves the body thinking of any being, to that being alone he goes, is said. Uh, and in shloka number 7, Sri Krishna Paramatma says, at all times remember me. The word uses all time, not sometime, whenever you get time, you remember me. It's said at all times, which is the word use was pada use was sarveshu. Sarveshu Kaleshu. So at all times, you have to remember, you have remember me, and fight with the mind and intellect. This reminded me of what Balaji always says, when he explains his BMI chat. In the mind, that agitation, and in intellect, that desire. So that constant fight is there, um, and fixed or absorbed in me. So there are three things here. There is one, one is the fight with the mind, which is with the agitations. The second one is a desire, and then at the same time, you have to fix that mind on the lotus feet of the God, or as Gurudev said, meditate on the feet of truth. You shall doubtlessly come to me alone. So I can talk here. I can take an analogy of the football. If there is no opponent, and the goal is there in front of you, and you have to go and shoot the ball in that goal, it is so easy. You can take the football and you can go to the goal, which is the lotus feet of the God. Here we are talking about. You can go and shoot, but that is not that easy. So you have the other 10 players coming towards you, blocking you not to reach that goal. And that is the agitations and the desires that keep in the mind and the intellect. So that will constantly, not allow you to reach to your goal. So the entire life, at all times, we have to keep remembering these things, this obstacle which is going to come, which are the agitation and desire. And at the same time, remember our goal. We should not be busy with these agitation and desires, that comes in our life. But remember that our goal is to shoot that, reach that goal. And we have to always keep meditating on the feet of the truth, or feet of the Lord. So few things which is very nicely worded by Gurudeva in his commentary is which I liked is, he says, major portion of the mind at all time wanders into the jungles of dreadful fears, caves of jealousies, desert of imaginary possibilities of failures. Beautifully worded. You can contemplate on these things itself. Jungle with fear, caves with jealousies, because jealousy is deep down in the dark corners of our heart, which is a cave. Yeah, so it's beautifully worded, which we can keep remembering rest of our life. And then and my limited understanding of Gurudeva's word is that he says that this battle uh, is in our own lives. It's a very own battle, and which means that this battle is within and not without. It's not out, it's within, with our mind and intellect. And what will happen, uh, these practices, when we keep practicing this, it will teach and educate us. And then that's when Gurudeva says, and the result of this constant practice, which will educate us, will be all, he says, will all his action will be soaked in selflessness. So the person will become matured, so his action will be soaked in selflessness. His thought, and all his thoughts will be flavored with love, and all his feeling matured in kindness. So if you look at the entire life of Gurudev, it's a lakshana of what result could come out of it. It is the action will be selfless, the thought will be flavored with love, and the feelings, that would be of kindness. So and the entire life is in front of us, of our Gurudev. This lakshana is very much easy, in front of us. Gurudeva having said in sloka number 7, fight the battle of their own lives. The method, as Meenakshi said, method is explained. So method is explained in sloka number 8, as per my limited understanding. What is it? With the mind not moving towards any other things, and it's made steadfast by the method of beautiful words. Habitual meditation is one, and constantly meditating on the Supreme Purusha. So it has to be habitual, and it has to be constant. So when you do constantly, will it form an habit, right? So he goes, and what will be the result? The result is said, the sublimation of the limited ego. So the drop of the ego is the ultimate here, the ahankara. So if we continue doing this, that is what is going to happen. And the word that Gurudev has used for divyam here is resplendent, which the dictionary meaning is attractive and impressive through being richly colorful, and sumptuous, which is magnificent, extremely good. So the attainment is divyam, by doing this. So this is my limited understanding. I conclude. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Mittalji. Request Suresh ji to share his views.
Hari Om, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. I hope that I am audible, right?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So we are in the 8th chapter, the Taraga Brahma Yoga or the Akshara Brahma Yoga. And today we are going through the famous slogas, the 7th and the 8th. Tasman Sarveshu Gareshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyeja Mai Arpida Mano Buddhi Mam Eva Yeshasya Samsaya Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Nanyagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yadi Partha Anuchindayan. These are the two slogas we are going through today. And we have seen that the chapter started with the questions from Arjuna. He is raising the doubts to Bhagavan in 7 questions. He is asking that what is the Brahman, what is the Adhyatma, what is the Karma, what is the Adhibhuta, what is Adhideva, and what is Adhyajna. These are the 6 questions. And finally, in the second sloga, last question, he is raising that how and in what manner is the Lord known by the self-controlled at the time of the death. So this is the last question asking Arjuna in the second sloga of the 8th chapter. So we have seen that the answers of the earlier 6 questions, and the 7th question Bhagavan is answering in detail for the Prayana Kalecha Kadam Nyeyosi Nyedam Atmavi. That 7th question answering in the verses through 5th to 8th slokas. Elaborately, we can see that 5 and 6 we have gone through last week, and 7 and 8 we are going through this week. So the 7th sloga is saying that Bhagavan is saying that Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyaja Mai Arpida Manobuddhar Mam Eshasya Samsaya. The Anya is Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyaja Mai Arpida Manobuddhi Tum Mam Eva Eshasi Asamsaya. This is the sloga, which is saying that therefore at all times remember me and fight with me with mind and intellect fixed, for observe in me you shall doubtless come to me alone. And you can see that elaborated commentary Swamiji is given here, and particularly Swamiji is emphasizing here that no religion can continuously serve the society unless it gives its faithful followers specific instructions and the guidance on how best to live their day-to-day life. Here is an instruction which is at once applicable in the secular fields of the living and in divine realms of the life. Here is a simple instruction by which not only the standard of the living could be raised, but also standard of the life could be diminished. This is the profound message or the special message. There are two messages we are getting through this sloka. Here, this is the importance here. Mam anusmara yudhyaja. Mam anusmara yudhyaja. This is what, this is a famous message we are getting here. And Swamiji himself is saying that even while living through the turmoils of the existence, a true seeker must learn to keep his mind continuously upon the awareness of his real nature and the substratum of the world in one's vast embrace of the blissful homogeneity. So this is the two things we have to remember always. Swamiji is saying that even though we are in the middle of the turmoils, always remember the Bhagavan. The same way, Ramakrishna Devan also saying that one who has this toothache, when he is jumping into the action, although the toothache is disturbing, sometimes he is remembering that toothache. So it should be like that. Always when we are performing our actions or the karmas, we have to remember the Bhagavan. These are the two messages we can we are receiving through this sloka. Mam anusmara yudhyaja. Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyaja. These are the two messages, thinking of the divine and in the other hand, carrying the battle of the life. You know, these two things we have to always remember. So this is a message we are getting through this verse number 7. And then doubtlessly I can assure that you will come to me. The question is, you know, how a self-controlled person, in what manner he is knowing the Lord at the time of the death. So the answer is very undoubtedly, he is saying that you perform your duty in the battlefield and always remember me, and then definitely you will come to me. So this is undoubtedly Krishna is advising to Arjuna. And moving to the 8th sloka, which is saying that the 8th sloka saying that Abhyasa yoga yuktena chedasa nyanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yadi partha anuchindayan. The anya is, hey partha, Abhyasa yoga yuktena na anyagamina chedasa anuchindayan paramam divyam purusham yadi. Here again the assurance is giving that with the mind not moving towards any other thing, made steadfast by the method of the habitual meditation and constantly meditating on the Supreme Purusha, the resplendent, O Partha, he goes to him. The term death mentioned here does not mean only the irrevocable physical death, but also the death of the ego, which is to be thought about through the steady practice of the meditation. Abhyasa yogam, and here we can see that, or we can listen another yoga also. In the previous chapters, there are 3 yogas only we have understood that. The one is the Karma Yoga, the second one is the Bhakti Yoga, and the third one is the Jnana Yoga. Here we can understand there is one more yoga, Abhyasa Yoga. And it is very interesting to knowing the Shankara Bhashyam, which is more emphasizing about this Abhyasa in his commentary. The Bhashyakaran is saying that which will give more clarity about the Abhyasa. Bhagavan Shankaracharya is saying that Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Mai Chitta Samarpana Vishaya Bhude Ekasmin Tulya Pratyaya Vritti Lakshano Vilakshana Pratyaya Anandarida Abhyasa Sa Cha Abhyasa Yogo Tena Yuktam Tatra Eva Vyav Bradam Yogana Cheta Tena Chetasana Anyagamina Na Anyatra Vishayandare Yantam Sheelam Asya Idi Na Anyagami Tena Nanyagamina Param Niradishayam Purusham Divyam Divi Surya Mandale Bhavam Yadi Gachedi Ke Partha Anuchindayan Shastra Jaryovadesham Anuthyayan Idi Edat. You know, here in the commentary or in the Mula Sloka, it is saying only the Anuchindayan. And Acharya Shankara is going one more step ahead and saying that Shastra Jaryovadesham Anuthyayan. Anuthyayan Idi Edat. And let us see that what is this Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. The meaning is for this Shankara commentary is Abhyasa, which is the practice, is the state of the repeatedly concentrating on me. The one and only object on which the mind, the chitta, can be set undisturbed by any other thought. The Abhyasa is also a yoga. The mind of the yogi, which does not go towards other sensory objects, rest in that alone. With such a mind tempered with the adherence of the teaching of the scriptures and the teacher, the yogi attains to the transcendental Purusha abiding in the solar sphere. This is the commentary given by Acharya Shankara, and Shankara is saying that Abhyasa is a state of the repeatedly concentrating on me. And Anuchindayan, Anuthyayan, you know, Anu, the continuous process. And here also it is saying that my chitta samarpana vishaya bhude ekasmin tulya pratyaya pritya lakshano vilakshana pratyaya anantarida. There are two terms he is using here, tulya pratyaya vritti lakshanam and vilakshana pratyaya. There are two terms is there. What is the tulya pratyaya? When we are seeing the form of the Lord Rama and chanting Ram, 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 something like that, that is the Tulya Pratyaya. There is no aversion, there is no disturbance, nothing is there. And after some times or in between, the person, he is thinking about that, oh, how Ravana was killed by Rama. And then this affection is coming there, the Vilakshana Pratyaya, that is the Vilakshana Pratyaya. Yeah, the continuous thought process of the Ram, 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 Ram is the Tulya Pratyaya. So we have to be steady in the Tulya Pratyaya, and there is no affection of the Vilakshana Pratyaya. So that is the term Abhyasa. So this is the definition Acharya Shankara is giving. So we know that Gandhiji also throughout his life he was chanting the Ram 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 or Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Padita Bhavana Sita Ram. Always he was chanting. So that is the reason. So at the time of the death he was able to say that Hey Rama. So this is the Abhyasa we have to practice. Anuchindayan, Anuchindayan, constant remembrance. Anu is very important. And Shankara is going one more step beyond that. He is Anuthyayan also he is giving. Anu, another example, we can see that, the oil, when we are pouring the oil from one bottle to another bottle, there is a continuous flow is there. It should be like that. We can say that this is example we can see, we can say that. And Ramesh Paramahamsa also is saying that, you have two hands are there. One hand is always you have to use it to perform your action, and the other hand should be used to hold the feet of the Bhagavan. And once your karma is finished, the action is finished, take both hands and to hold the feet of Bhagavan. So it should be like that. So the continuous process, the continuous practice is a must to sublimate the ego, and then only, as Bhagavan is assured, you will come to me. And this is as much as earlier, the process also should be started. That is why in Vasishtha Ramayanam, it is saying that there is a sloga is there. Deva Todiya Pada Pangaja Pancharanda Adeva me Visadu Manasa Rajahamsa Prana Prayana Same Kapha Vada Pite Kandavarodha Vide Smaranam Kridaste, which means always you have to keep your mind, and the mind is comparing with the Rajahamsa. You have to keep your mind at the lotus feet of the Bhagavan always, not tomorrow or after the age of 60, something like that. Always you have to keep. Otherwise, what will happen? Prana prayana samaye kapha vada pite kandavarodha vidho smaranam kritaste. Otherwise, at the time of the death, your kandha, your throat will be blocking with the kapha, vada, pitta, and then you will not be able to remember the Bhagavan or chant his name. So as much as earlier you have to start this thought process, and then it will cleanse your mind, and it will emerge or integrate with the buddhi, and then you will reach your final goal. I am giving you the assurance. So this is the answer or the assurance or the answer of the seventh question we can see in the 5 to 8 slogas. And what are the results we can see in the next words on words. This is what I understand from these two verses. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Suresh ji, if you have time, I have one question here, which I am actually not very clear on. Can I raise the question, or
Yes. Yes. If I'm able to answer, I will answer.
Yeah, what I'm not able to understand is that the death which is being referred in chapter 8 is only the death of the ego, right? It is not the normal death which we all pass through as a part of transition. Now, if the death is of the ego, then why this question that whether we are concentrating upon God or not is coming? Because the person who has already surrendered his ego completely, he should be in that frame that he's just, ready to meet God. Why is this discussion coming through? I'm not getting that clarity. If it was a normal death, I can understand that a person has, but this is not the normal death. It is the death of the ego which they are talking about. This aspect is not. Yeah.
That is very clear that, if a person is an egoistic person, and at the time of the death, only he is just remembering the Bhagavan, and he has the full ego and other bad qualities are there. And at the time of the death only he is remembering. Definitely, he is not going to reach that sphere or that plane. So we have to, this is a continuous process. Continuous process means from the 3rd chapter onwards, we can see that this is in a day or in a dawn. You cannot attain this stage, the liberation. If you wanted to reach that plane, you have to go through so many processes. And one of the important thing is we have to overcome this shadormi. we have seen in the previous chapters also, we have to come out of all this aversion and kama, raga, all this, we have to come out of that one. And one of the important thing is the ego. You know, I am the one is doing, I made this, I have this one. So you have to go beyond that one. This is all belongs to him only. I am just an apparatus only. So you have to reach that stage. Then only you will get the complete liberation. So that is why it is saying that sublimate. It is not saying that all of a sudden you stop. In the earlier classes also, many years also, we have discussed this matter. There is a drunkard or a chain smoker is there. Okay, if he has that willpower, he can do it. Otherwise, if a person is smoking 30 or 40 cigarettes in a day, he decided to stop that one, and he is taking a decision that, okay, another 1 month I will smoke only 3 cigarettes only, and the next month again he is deciding that, okay, I will take only 1 cigarette only, and the 3rd month he can completely throw away the cigarette packets. It is like that. So that is why the term is called sublimate. Sublimate. All of a sudden, nobody can go beyond his ego. So you have to inculcate or develop these qualities. You have to go beyond this shadurmis. So that is the reason you have to go beyond this shadurmis, and then you are prepared to reach the Bhagavan's sphere or the plane or whatever it may be. It is like that. This is what I understand.
Hari Om. Thank you, Suresh.
Hari Om.
Ajay ji, please.
Hari Om. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave. Hari Om. We are in the Akshara Brahma Yoga, the imperishable Brahman, and the verses under discussion. Actually 7 and 8, but it is in connection with verse number 6 also. So 6, 7, 8, that most beautiful 3 verses we are planning to, we are discussing. So definitely the verse number 6 must have been already discussed in detail during the last session, which I was not able to attend. I will try to pick up a few things from verse number 6, reflect on that one, then come to 7 and 8. I think that will be for my own in a stream of reflection, that would be more important. So in the verse number 6, Bhagavan says, whatever object one remembers while leaving the body, that alone is reached by him. This is a Bhagavan statement, which again, during the discussion, the question answer session at the end of chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, Bhagavan given to Arjuna, I will place you in the most appropriate place after your this body is over. You have a continuity of the life. Bhagavan, here it is again further explaining it that one. So whatever the object one remember while leaving the body, that alone he reached. And that means at the end, at the time of physical death, when Gurudev in the coming verse mentioned it is the death of the ego also there. But it is, let me concentrate on that part of the while leaving the body, that final thought, the texture and quality of the final thought that decide your next journey, next destination. This is verse number 6. For example, always it is, we have mentioned that as you think, you become. That's a very common statement. Again, further little subtlest thing, the last thought while we are sleeping. Actually, we do not know when we are going, when if you are lie down in a bed in the night or whatever it is, we do not know the past. That is when we are going to they are actually, you are dwelling into sleep is we do not know. But the last thought, which is at the sleep of at the time of sleep, will be the first thought in the early morning. This again, Acharyas are definitely, because personally, which is very subtle and very, very, very subtle thing, which we cannot, because the moment you wake up, a flush of thoughts will come and you will all be able to get into focus on that one. You do not know what is the first thought, second thought, and then there is a kind of once you wake up from the bed, you know, a lot of things will be coming parading to your mind, and that subtleness we cannot get always. So this here is mentioned even while sleeping, we do not know what time we sleep exactly, and what is the last thought. We do not know. Here Bhagavan says at the time of leaving the body, how difficult it is. Even by the daily practice, daily routine thing, which we do unconsciously or when like a routine thing, sleeping, waking up, all these things are there. Even then, we cannot keep that things possible. So we do not know when going this body is going to drop off. We do not know exactly. Once the expiry date is there, this body will drop off and go away. That's the thing. But at the same, we do not know exactly. Well, what we'll do? Can we put some alarm in our mobile while leaving the body? You just wake me up and tell me chant Lord's name. Is it possible? Or we do not know what is the kind of a quality and text of the thought at the time when we leave the body. So that is the destination which is going to be in the Puranas, and many examples have been given. Whatever there is a rishi which is doing the tabas, but he could not. He was final stages. He got attached to other pets and other things. While leaving the body, he thought about that one. He became that one in the next birth. The many stories are in the Bhagavata Purana and other things. So this year, Bhagavan's statement is that one. You, whatever the object you remember, then it is how it is possible. Bhagavan, without giving a kind of practical way, just giving a statement only. That's a question now. We have to really see that one. So Bhagavan here says that, okay, this is something, this is an assurance, Bhagavan, that you, the final object or the texture and quality of your last thought while leaving the body will definitely, that is the journey or the next step. Now, coming to the verse number 7, that's the most beautiful, most practical way of Bhagavan's advice given in that verse number 6. So this we are a common thing also. Until unless we have a continuous thought of something which we cannot get, even the so tomorrow I have to go to some other place. Definitely, while sleeping, I'll make some plans. So early morning, I have to get up and prepare all this. So that's a continuous thought is coming. So probably next morning, I will just get an alarm in myself that one. I have to get up early, and this biology clock works, and we are experiencing. So here it is a continuous advice given. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyaja my arpida manobuddhi mame vaishyasya asamshya. The beyond doubt, doubtlessly, I am telling you. Tasma, therefore, whatever being discussed in the verse number 6, sarveshu kaleshu, always, mam anusmara, remembering me, yudhyaja, yudhya, you do your fight. This as Puja Gurudev's commentary beautifully given. This is a direct advice to the Arjuna because that is the context of the Bhagavad Gita, and it is the indirect instruction to the mankind in the later stages of centuries coming or generations to come. So it is keeping Arjuna in front of that in the battlefield. Bhagavan gives an advice to Arjuna. Through Arjuna, it is giving to others also. Ma manusmara yudhyaja. So what is the important thing? My arpida manobuddhi. We know that it is our actual faculties are mind and intellect. Body is just an instrument. It is more subtle thing is the mind and so my arpida mano and buddhi. Your andakarana, manas and buddhi. Mame vaishyasya samshya. Beyond doubt, Bhagavan gives a declaration that assurance to Arjuna on that one. When you are doing your battle of life, Puja Gurudev slightly give a wider explanation to the word vidya, yuddha of battle. It's a battle of life to all of us. We are not going to do a real fight or a battle in the sense, but it is a battle of life. Everybody, every day, everybody is striving for the life. That's a battle of life. In the battle of life, always remembering me through with your mind and intellect, and you completely always remembering me when you are doing something or when you are not doing something. There are two things are there. In that both the times you remember me and you do your fight. Puji Gurudev's commentary mentioned that. Is it possible? So just remember, Lord always chant the Lord's name. Is it we have to have a daily life is there and all these things are there? Can we have to strive for our means of life and other things? Is it possible? So here it is. Then it is not. You do whatever you are doing. Yuddha is another gravest situation that is there. So we are not as bad as Arjuna's situation. We are encountering the challenges of the life. But Arjuna's situation, see that in the Arjuna's situation, there are two options are there. Either you kill somebody or get killed. That's a yuddha. Yuddha is always, battles are always there. Battles are in the battle, there are only two options, but that's what it is the most gravest situation. Your options are limited. You have two options, either kill or get killed. Here, our situations are much better. Here, even then also, battle of life, when you are doing the battle of life, you remember me always. Like Puja Gurudev further explained that one as a BGM, as a background music. When you are doing something, the music concerts, particularly in the Carnatic concerts and other things, it is there. You know, there's a background, there is a Shruti, it's going on. That Shruti, which is always there and uninterruptedly it is going. All the ragas and other talas are merged with one, synchronized with that one. So you make a life accordingly that one. Whenever you are doing that one, often it is being advised to people working on all of us like that one. When we are having some time, remember Lord and like that, which start the practice like that one, then it is a continuous flow of practice. So remember me inside you, mano buddhi, you keep me alone, you keep me in me. That means mana and buddhi, mind and intellect completely submerged to the Lord, and external things you do it. We have, you know that we have two karnas are there, andakarana and behikarana. So behikarana is our hands and all those things are there, for the karmendriyas are there. Let you employ your karmendriyas continuously into worldly actions. And the mind and intellect towards Lord. And the Puja Gurudev mentioned that one in the Hinduism, there is no separate spiritual life for worldly life. Because we have only one life. In the one life, whatever we are doing that one, it has to be normally classified. He's a spiritual person, he has a spiritual life, worldly life is separate, and also here it is mentioned that religion is not diverse from life. There is a intimately connected at the head and the trunk, separated from other candy. This is important. Like Hinduism, we consider the life alone which is there. So what is being advised here? While doing your external actions, you completely merge with that one. With the mind and intellect, you completely, because the spiritual life, andakarana, it is it's always these spiritual things are happening in the mind and intellect stage. So I think the Yoga Vasishtha, there is an advice given to Lord Sri Ram by Vasishtha Rishi. In the outer world, you just you enjoy the kingship in a most splendor way, but inside you strive towards the spiritual things. So externally we can do that one, because external life, we can just mention a standard of living, that is the worldly life, and the spiritual life is indicated by standard of life. This both the things are important. When you are doing something, when you are not doing something, when you are immersed in the worldly activity, when you are in the gravest situation, or when you are in the happiest situation, both the things as a BGM, as a background music, let the Lord, then the remembrance of the continuous remembrance of Lord be take place, then only at the time of leaving the thought, because this continuity, has to take place, then only you will be able to remember the Lord at the time of leaving the body. That's most practical. One statement is there, and the best, most practical. You don't have to do anything other than that one. Your mind and intellect, it will be submerged to the Lord, and your vehikarana, your kamendriyas work on that one. So in that case, what happens is the striving to achieve the highest, both in the outer world of plurality and in the realms within, should rest within that. So you can have a success both ways. So most practical way of the religion is coming to the practical way in these words, and it is this beautiful words. Bhagavan Puja Gurudev's commentary, we have to really repeatedly reflect on the words very, very nicely. As usual, it is Puja Gurudev's further explanation on that one is taking place. Again, the verse number 8, further practical things are mentioned here. Here what is mentioned in the verse number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chedasa na anyagamina paramam purisham divyam yadi parthan anuchindayan. Hey Arjuna, Partha, Abhyasa yoga yuktena. mind is not moving towards any other things, made steadfast by the method of habitual meditation, abhyasa. Even previously also, abhyasena tu kaunteya, it's mentioned. You have to do the practice, and the vairagya part is mentioned here. Abhyasa yoktena chedasa na anyagamina, not moving towards anything. Paramam purusham divyam yadi partha anuchindayan. Suresh spent a lot of explanation on that one, anuchindayan and anudhyayan. Where Puja Gurudev's beautiful wordings on the habitual meditation, because in the English it is more important, I mean, like it's very easy to understand also. Meditates upon the self. Anuchindayan is very significant. Thoughts of the same species made to run towards one fixed ideal or a goal in an unbroken flow are called meditations. Acharya Shankara says, Sajadiya Vritti Pravaha, Vichadiya Vritti Rahila. Align the thoughts in a line. That's important. Anuchindayan, continuous. Suresh mentioned that the flow of oil, Ajyadharya, Ramana Maharshi says, Ajyadharya, the continuous flow of the oil or ghee is the unbroken thought process, thought flow. That's Anuchindayan. So it is how it is that this is possible. Always thinking. Meditate upon, then when the marketplace or the most difficult situation of the life also there, okay, you do whatever you are in that, but with the mind completely merged into that one. Mind, in the mind you think about, because that another practical way is that one, whatever you are seeing in the outside is only the expressions of the Lord, then that is also possible. In that case also you expand your vision in that way. So whatever you are seeing the Lord, then the remembrance of the Lord is much easier. So fixing the goal in that one, thoughts of the same species may run towards one fixed ideal or goal. So this is important, that one. So mind continuously merged into that one, continue anuchindayan, unbroken flow. This is continuous flow, let it happen, that one. This continuity, this Nairantarim is important. That is so the most practical things Bhagavan put it into the 3 verses, that one. How you live this world and how to live in this world and how to leave this world. The 2 things are there. For us, it is important, that one. Our Puja Guruji, Swami Tejamanji always say that one. Bhagavad Gita talks about these 2 things. How to have a good life here. Let's say here, how it is, how to leave this in the world. Bhagavan mentioned that one. Manusmara Yutthaja, when you are in the, you are doing your karmas, your dharmas and the battlefield of the fit one. Always do that one with your responsibility. You take up that one. Do it as best as one can do it. At the same time, with the mind continuously and unbroken way, continuously striving to reach me. With the mind, it is fixed on me. Let us do that one. Suresh mentioned about the Gandhiji's part. I think you remember, someone definitely, or Pradeepji will remember that one. Sometime back, when we are doing a Gita chanting competition at the Indian Consulate Hall, and the final function, this chapter was doing that one. Then we have a stage show based on this particular thing, Gandhiji chanting Hey Ram, and he gives the body that one. I just remember that one. So this is a kind of thing. Gandhiji, an example is been set here now. He always in the mind, it always in the, his lips are always Ram, Ram, Ram. It is already like his sister Devada, he put that one. And it is he has his battle of life, you take that one. He has continuously worked for the entire Bharat, get to liberation and other things. And that's the most difficult job. He keep his spiritual life also equally, both balanced one. His daily life and the spiritual life, right? That one. This is the most practical things, few reflections. I think I taken a little more time on that one, but it is a few reflections which come to me on the verse number 6, 7, and 8. I have tried to share with all of us. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to share these reflections. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ajiji. Very nice reflections. We move to the next. Pradeepji, would you like to share your views?
Hari Om. Just a few minutes. So it's a very nice. Ajayji is remembering the old days. I was thinking about that also. So here Bhagavan says about in earlier verses also, in earlier chapters also, anasrita karma phalam in chapter 6 starts with karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi and all that. So there it is the karyam, the duty has to be done without depending on the fruits of action. And then chapter 7 starts with my asakta mana partha yoga yunjan mad ashraya, depend on me. And here in chapter 8, now 7 and 8 verse, it is said that ma manusmara yudhyacha. So that mam anusmara and yudhyacha, these both. And also in chapter 3 it is that my sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa, there also yudhyaja. So this Gurudev is beautifully giving the explanation that we should not get confused with that the partial understanding of the verse. So and also the half portion understood creates a lot of confusion, like that we have also seen many, even we ourselves feel at times when tempted by the attractions of the world, that which what to do about, and how which direction to take, and all these type of confusions keep coming. That so there Gurudev very exposes that human mind there when he says that the Mamanusmara, that continuously think of God and all that. Some people take religion in that angle, and then later they find that why I am wasting my life or what? Something like that. So Gurudev is exposing there all that aspects which every individual at a crude level or partial understanding comes into. So in general, just I would like to say that what Gurudev explains here, that it is on the 7 and 8, that 7 is the practical aspect of it, and 8 is based on the Puranas, the process of upasana is explained. And also, as Vithalji said, the fighting is actually the two aspects of this fight. It's a direct instruction to Arjuna for fighting because it is his job. For us, as far as others are concerned, the men of action, men of the world are concerned, the duty is what it is meant as action. And so that is a karyam karma karoti anasada karma phalam and all that. So, and here Bhagavan is saying that mam anusmara yudhyacha. So this yuddha should be for fighting the internal enemies which comes in our path. Why? For executing our duty. But for duty there is no problems. Whatever is my duty, if I am focused on my duty, there is no attachment, there is no issues, no jealousy, no anger, nothing comes into my way, because duty is my duty. I know what to do with the duty. I have to be fully focused on that. But when it comes to other enemies in between these problems come. So those are the enemies to be fought. And basically to our job, basically fundamentally we should remember that this is to kill the ego in us and the fight the enemies internally. So that yuddha has to be taken as the internal enemy while doing the external duty, which is my kartavya. Kartavya means ought to be done thing, which has no attachments at all. Because if I have to take care of my children, I have to family or my job, I have no issues whatsoever. There is no attachment, nothing. I will do it. So that is kartavya. So for that there is no issue. That what is coming in between the difficulties, that we have to fight. That is that yuddha. But for that, mam anusmara is there, which can be compared to the music. Those who really has that sense of music knows that what is the importance of shruti, or in North India it is called sur. So that there are sura, besura, kansura and all that. So it has to be exactly on sur, on shruti. Then only that music becomes beautiful. What it does is, when you sing, wherever you go up and down the ragas or whatever modulations you do. But while there is a pause, this Shruti is heard. So you come back whenever there is a problem, and in the music you can see that people sometimes they hold their hand because that they are missing the Shruti. So it has to come back to that Shruti, that balance. That is the God, the Ma Manusmara. That thought, the Gurudev's beautiful. In fact, Ajayji said that Chinmayam, I made a speech on this particular verse. It was so, I still remember that. The term which I quoted there is Gurudev's words. The term, since the path for the individual to walk up to the pinnacles of perspection is laid by his evolving thoughts, an individual's life must be lived with a constant background music of the divine awareness. So that Shruti should be always there. That means that inner voice is always there. But when you go out, you know that you have gone Vesura or Kansura. You come back to Sura, Shruti. So that is that Mahamanusmara. In that, and Yudhyaja is only do your kartavya, and but fighting is for the internal enemies and to kill the ego so that you can yati Brahma Sanatana. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Nanduji.
Hari Om. Very nicely explained by everyone. Just my little thoughts on these two shlokas. In first 7th shloka, the word come as a and Prajapati very nicely mentioned about the, like it is like a duty. And this remember us like the very famous shloka of 2nd chapter, which is about the karmanyevadhikaraste mafaleshu kadachana. So this is like each and every one of us is having like a particular things duty to be done. And the Gita, what is like said by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, if we are thinking in that way, this nothing I have to do, but it's not like that. It is just like a message for me. Maybe in the other way, where this their Bhagwan was there. Now in this life, maybe Gurudeva is coming, and me maybe just like Arjuna and explaining all about that Gita thing, and I need to understand myself whether I am the level of Arjuna or not. If not, maybe I need to elevate myself. And Tukaram Maharaj in one of the Abhanga, he says like Ratrandina Amha Yuddhacha Prasanga, means like within this body itself. Now we have heard about the Kurukshetra, how far it is maybe from like where we are sitting, maybe 2000 kilometers or away from here. But that Kurukshetra, it's here only, like Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra. The first loka itself is starting within like our body itself. And here only we are seeing that like a Asura, everything within us. And the second part of the 7th shloka, where it is mentioned about like Mayorpita Manobuddhi. And this reminds like there is shloka in the 12th chapter, 8th shloka, which is Bhagavan is talking about like Mayeva Manadasva May Buddhi Niveshava. And there itself, there also Bhagavan is saying like Nisa Ushaya, means no doubt you will be reaching to me. And this like in our like day-to-day life, how we live, how either we think about like future, like dipping, taking jumps in the future life, or maybe like dipping in like a past life, what happened in previously and all. And we are not at all living maybe moment to moment, and that is the one of the key thing. And for that famous thing from like J. Krishnamurti for the living from moment to moment. And the shloka 700 very nicely and elaborately explained Gurudeva in commentary, referring to like a previous shlokas, and so like 8.5 and 6, where it is mentioned about like what at the Prayanikali, what we should be thinking about. There is one nice video shared in our group of one child and explaining about these thoughts. And epic of that, the last part which was mentioning, I mean, how we think. And you may be thinking about the buffalo, and maybe that buffalo is not belongs to you. And it was a nice one. The question, Manishji, very nice question asked, and I may not be able to answer maybe up to that level, but just a little bit thought on the question from myself. And in Gurudev's commentary, several places, so it was mentioned about like suicide of mind. And there is one story, it is called about like one bee, and maybe just mind, it is something like similar. That bee is going maybe everywhere, like maybe it is sitting on the sweet, as well maybe sitting on the shit also. Whereas if that bee is not at all trying to reach to the fire, and that bee knows that if I'll go to fire, I will finish. And something of like mind also, it is something similar. If that mind will go everywhere, just like a bee, with good places also, or and the bad places also. But if that mind will go on the feet of like a Lord or maybe Gurudeva, that is going to be like a vanish. And that itself, that mind knows, that's why it is not at all going. And all these things are happening with the base of like ahankara. We know that all the four types of like antakarna, which is called like manabuddhi chitta ahankara. So all these are not maybe like a different, it is one itself, but it is given with like a different names. Mana is having like a different things like sankalpa, vikalpa, mana, nishyatmaka buddhi, avdharana vritti, chitta. And all these things are happening with the ahankara only. If that ahankara itself is not there, ego is not there, all these things will not be there. And that is our day-to-day life experience. When in a sleep, certain time that is vanishing somewhere. And that if there is nothing is there, which is like we say as like a sushupti, that time all those things not there. And Ajay ji also very nicely mentioned about the one quote from the Yoga Vasishtha, which is like about like antastagi bahir bhogi loke vihara raghava. So like in our day-to-day life, some of the good things, if it is happening, maybe I'm maybe fan of like a basundi. I like that, and maybe I can enjoy that. But the problem is with, if I will not be survived without basundi, that is the question. If some things are good things are happening and it is coming on our way, that is fine. But if it is not coming, then we should not be worried. And that could be a small message from that. Tukaram Maharaj is having like very nice, almost like 5,000 abhangas, and through the abhangas, he has given very profound message about the like our scriptures and all. There are some abhangas like in Hindi. I will just read maybe one which may be relating to our today's discussions. Lobi ke chita dhana baithe, kamini ke chita kam, mata ke chita puta baithe, tuka ke manaram. So what we are thinking ourselves, like Lobhi, he will think only about the dhana. Kamini, she will think about like a kama only. Mata, she is only thinking about her child only. But tukake mana baithe ram. So what is in our mind? So if there is a like a either kam or maybe dam. In last discussions, Dr. Sanjay ji very nicely mentioned about the dam thing. So either kam is there or dam is there, then there will be no ram. So if we have to cleanse all these things, and then only we'll be having these things. And there is another famous abhanga is there, which is saying about like Mukhi Nama, Hati Moksha, Aisi Sakshi Bhautanji. Whoever is like chanting like a name of Lord, and sure, they got the moksha. This was the thing. And with all these things about the shloka 7 and 8 and the crux of all these things, what is the message for us? There is one nice story comes in like a Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is about Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi discussions. And Yajnavalkya, when he decided to take a sannyasa, and he decided to distribute his wealth within his two wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi. And Maitreyi was saying, with all this wealth, will I be happy and all that thing? And Yajnavalkya very nicely explained about this. It's not going to happen. And one very nice message from that Shruti is about like Atma vare drashtavyo, shrutavyo, mantavyo, dididhasitavyo. So what need to be done? Atma vare drashtavyo. Can we see Atma? It's not one at all possible. But maybe like a shrutavyo, you just maybe listen about it. Mantavyo, take like a dhyana of all that thing. And in our day-to-day life, all those things should be happening. That's my little thought about this two. Hariom.
Anyone else? Subbuji or Sharmaji, any would like to share their views before we move to Balaji?
Hariom Manishji. I'll be very brief. I know that time is running out, but anyway, It's Hari Om. She's Om Shri Chinmaya Sadguru Namaha. But my only takeaway is I think the previous speakers have quite very well elaborated the reflections on both verses 7 and 8. I'm only picking up one thing that takeaway for me was even Puji Gurudev in his discourse mentioned about this terminology anuchintayan, which is what kind of keeps coming into my thought process here. Basically, how do you do this? Because this is what the whole summary, right? We are in all the transaction world. We have our problems. But this is our field of action. But we have to go through this. But are we keeping that, that swara or shruti that was mentioned before in our back of the mind? Probably not. Because our intellect is switched off. So the mind wanders all around. Mind is doing its dharma. At the end of the day, the development is very minimum. So how do I do this? That's my takeaway on this. Because as Nanduji was saying before, the mind was either thinking about the future or about the past, but never it's in the present. Even Gurudev, in his one of those anecdotes, he always says that how do we learn to bring the mind where your hands are working. So that's the thing. But even Gurudev, if you listen to his video commentary, he always says that this has to come by continuous practice. This is not a big art, but this knack has to be learned.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Manishi, I think I got disconnected. I think. Sorry.
Yeah. Correct. Please continue.
No. I was just trying to summarize the last thing about this verse 8, the third, about the Anuchindayan part. How we have to, to keep the God in constant thought till the last moment. How to strengthen the spiritual vasanas, because vasanas are the one that is a propelling force behind us, right? For the desires and the thoughts and the actions that follows. So more we strengthen the spiritual vasana, this Anuchindayan part will, come automatically. And then, then this practice is very helpful to keep that, God thought in that soar in the mind all the time. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry about the glitch. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Sharma ji, are you there? I believe he is not available. Balaji sir.
Hari Om Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. We are in the 7th and 8th verses of the 8th chapter, Akshara Brahma Yoga. Very important for a sadhak. Now, all this understanding of these two verses or this particular chapter, we must not forget what has happened before, because this is a continuity in our study. So this cannot be isolatedly referred to, but in our understanding, we must always remember Gurudev's advice and references to all the previous chapters, because this is an evolution. So you're at one part of evolution, trying to understand how you can realize that very goal of life, even at the time of death. That is the theme of discussion. But then how we have to live, how we live will decide what we will do at the time of death. At the time of death alone, nothing can change substantially. So all our life, how we have lived, how we are supposed to live, will decide what will happen to our next life, what will happen at the time of death. These are the things that some basic things we have to always keep in mind. Isolatedly looking into Antakale will give a different connotation and confusion, but these confusions are meant to be contemplated. So from that angle, I would like to actually start the discussions to say that this, what exactly is death? It is the divorce. The death is only applicable divorce of the gross and the subtle body at the physical level. At the physical, say we know this BMI, gross body, subtle bodies are mind and intellect, and causal body is the vasana. Ultimately, what we want to do in that so-called Antakale, and what we want to realize is we want to go beyond all these bodies. Isn't it? Transcend over all these bodies. That is the main aim. And if you transcend all these bodies, what remains is that you merge with the consciousness supreme. This is the very goal of life. But for this, we cannot die. And if we die, we don't know what is going to happen after that. That is not the point of discussion. As a Jivan Mukta, in this very life, as we live our life every day, how are we going to realize the goal of life? How are we going to experience the supreme consciousness functioning through us is the theme of discussion. So therefore, if you analyze a little bit more here, Manish's question also is getting answered, I believe so. Anta kale, the very word kale, sarveshu kaleshu in verse 7, or anta kale in the previous verses, is all determining, talking about this aspect of time. And where is time exist? In the realm of the body, mind, and intellect. As long as the body, mind, and intellect is existing, as long as we are functioning through these instruments of body, mind, and intellect, in the realm of the OET and having PFT, time exists. This is a very important point. So when we say Antakale, last time, the time is ending. So time is ending is the point of discussion. When does time end? When you are out of body, mind, and intellect. Now, so therefore, this out of body, mind, and intellect is not talking about the physical death of the body, but Gurudev explains in the very video talks also that it is pertaining for a sadhak. We have to understand as a seeker that this is pertaining in the seat of meditation. And you know, this mystical ways of writing scriptures are always there to get the interest of seekers, the interest of the people who are studying. Suddenly, let us say that we are now going in an orderly manner, but somebody suddenly is hearing only this particular verse, then it becomes very mystical for them. It arouses curiosity in the listener of this. What is this Antakale, Prayanakale? At the time of death, then the Ajamila story. Oh, if we just utter Narayana, then all our sins are kind of, washed away. These are all at the elementary level. At the seeker level, when we want to understand how to use the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to live an active life, and then through the actions cleanse ourselves, then get purity of the mind and clarity in the intellect, and accordingly then subsequently use the body for serving the Lord and working in harmony with the rest of the creation. And then you forget yourself in the consciousness level of the body, mind, and intellect, and ultimately experience that divine consciousness, resplendent divyam. Final goal also explained here, how it is going to happen. This cannot happen without practice. So that is the theme of discussions. Now let us get into each and every aspect of this shlokas 7 and 8. As I said, Kaleshu is that time aspect which is only in the finite. So we cannot ignore the finite and achieve the infinite. We have to work around the finite aspects and then use the finite to gain the infinite. So it cannot, very beautiful concept, and Gurudev actually spends a substantial amount of the commentary is talking about how when half understood, Aravaidyan, Ala Kollum, everywhere it is there. Now the half educated people or the people who have only some part of the knowledge will kill it. So the same way, talking about this particular aspect, you look, when only half understood this stanza would kill the generation. It's like a this, which half are we talking about? This analysis we should take up first. When fully understood, it can make the very same generation to constitute the best evolved society in the world. So that is the difference. Which half you have to, which half have you understood? That is what is very important for us to analyze here, right? Which half? Mam Anusmara, constantly thinking of me. If, when, Tasmat is therefore. So that analysis is separate. Before that, what has happened, we have to understand. Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. If, you have to constantly keep thinking about the Lord, not doing anything else, just sitting in the corner and remembering Lord's name and remembering his form, not contributing to anything in the house, not contributing anything to the society. Just you sit there, constantly keep on thinking. This is the destruction of oneself and ultimately will lead to frustration and wasteful life we have lived. A thought like that would arise later on, and utter disgust, curse themselves for their unfortunate mistake in trying to live the religious life. So if only this half is understood, ma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmaran. If this alone you are understanding, it is no use. So beautiful example Gurudev has given here. It is like the head and trunk. What is the point if it is separated? Separated from what? That is the second half. Yuddheshu. Yuddhya. Until and unless it is combined with action. What is war here? Yuddhya. Everybody has explained. We have also understood. For us, our war is our battle of the battle between the good and bad. We know that Kurukshetra is this OET. Our body is the Kurukshetra. Our mind and intellect are always in confrontation with between the good and bad, right and wrong. So this is the whole theme of that Yuddhyasya. And in all these things, there is this secular world. You are living in the secular world, and there is the spiritual background. So very important, substantial amount. This is a very important aspect in my opinion, because most of us get this wrong. Sarveshu Kaleshu. Mam Anusmaran. That alone will remain here. The second half is forgotten. If not integrated, there is going to be disaster in our progress. There is no evolution. There is just going to be boredom and ultimately finished. You will not attain the goal of life. This is what is a very important. I just wanted to bring it around here. So the secular and spiritual is not separated from one another. And Gurudev brings about, there is a very only one line he has mentioned, reminds us of dawn quick see out. There is this mention of this story, and that story, I just made a reference only now, not that I know of the story, but ultimately it is a French author, Miguel. And then the theme behind the story is to have a balance between imagination and reality and inevitability of death. These are the three things that is discussed in that story. Death is inevitable within this time frame. What are the balances that one has to have between the reality and the imagination? So here also in our day-to-day life, forgetting the priorities and the divinities and the background and what we have studied so far, if you just keep on remembering theory and not putting it to practice, how can a doctor be useful to the society or an engineer in whatever education? Now that is beautifully put here. A truly educated man, that paragraph here, I'm trying to come to the conclusion of this theme of divorce between secularism and spiritual. Religion being separate from our day-to-day living is impractical, of no use. For that purpose, I am just referring to this particular paragraph. A truly educated man never forgets his education. It becomes part and parcel of his very nature and in every thought, word, and action. It's very clearly, it cannot be divorced. What is thought? Divinity in thought leads to divinity in action. So that is without that, only a thought level divinity is there, and there is no action and no contribution. Then what to do? The simplest way I have understood this and to put it into practice, very simplest way, I'm sure you all will agree with me, is the Chinmaya Mission pledge. If you follow the pledge, you are already implementing the spiritual background, the divinity behind, the principle behind the Vedas. What you ought to do, you will be doing. There is no confusion at all. You will definitely evolve, and ultimately we will be doing God's work. And when we are doing God's work, we are already going to reach out to Him. We will be part of Him in our action, in our thoughts, in our evolution. So my simplest suggestion to the team is to just to remember Chinmaya Mission pledge, stand as one family, producing more than what we consume, flow through us to the world around us. You become the instrument. You see, everything, all our great sadhaks and seniors evolved members have now spoken so well. Every aspect you can connect very, like the BMI chart for referring the theory, the Chinmaya Mission pledge is for reference of practical how to live the way suggested by the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita. So these two things alone, if you have on two sides, one is your BMI chart to understand the theory, and one is the Chinmaya pledge to implement in practice. That is all is required, because this yuddha, it must not be forgotten. Like beautifully Vittal also gave good example of football goal. Goal is in mind, but you have to tackle all the people around you. You have to take yourself there, and this is only possible by you. And therefore, since it is going to be possible by you, you have to practice. Then the abhyasa comes into picture, right? So and also very important is this example. Gurudev has given the example of this actor. Actor meaning he is the king in the stage, but he must not forget what is his real position in life. So the true identity must never be forgotten. Otherwise, he will be taken to the lunatic asylum. Gurudev says that you cannot be, if you're divorced, one side only no action, or one side only thinking about the action and not understanding the background from where you are coming. So these both are very, very important. One without the other, the head without the trunk doesn't make any sense. There is no life in it. Then this very beautiful, all discussions are happening around this music, background music. What came to my mind, I will tell. I don't know whether you will enjoy it or not, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think all of us are familiar with this. Seen the James Bond movies, right? Yes, everybody has seen James Bond movies, no? There is a special music whenever James Bond comes. Tan, tadan, tadan, tadan. We all know that music also, right? So whenever the James Bond is in action, the background music is always there, So same way, our background music must be Gurudev, Chinmaya Mission, what we have learned, Bhagavad Gita, way of life. That background is always there, but in the foreground, the action must be there. Otherwise, only action without the background music is not good. Only background music without the action is not good. So this foreground and background confusion is very often experienced in seekers who are evolving. So this is a very useful example. And same way, even that, people of our age group people, or many of us also may be familiar with the Britannia ad. Whenever the message is ending, there is one visual music. Some people, it's called a signature line. So some of these signatures are given even by music. Ten, 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 like that it will end. The Britannia, whenever there's an advertisement of Britannia, the ending is this tone. Same way, Shanti, Om, ending. You must always remember, go back to the remembering this. For Anusmarana, I am just using these examples in a practical way. And one important message again from Gurudev's talks is that Arpita, my Arpita Mano Buddhi. Mano and Buddhi, we know again Mano and Buddhi wherein you are using in action, right? Or to think what you have to do. So what is that thought? We already, that in shlokas 5, 4, 5 and 6, it has been touched upon that whatever is the final thought, that direction. So it will take. The destiny will be on based on the direction of thought. So if you decide to go to Abu Dhabi, you will drive towards Abu Dhabi. You will not drive towards Sharjah. So it's all in your hands. You deciding your destination, determining the direction starts from the thought level, right? So that is to be understood. So Mano and Buddhi is to be used in to tune with the Lord. So Arpita is surrender. General meaning of this one is to surrender my mind and intellect to him. So when you mean surrender, what exactly is surrender? Gurudev amplifies that area there, tuned with the Lord. Tuned with the Lord means tuned with the Lord's works. Tuned with all the gunas that have been suggested in Devasura. All the Deva gunas must be in practice. You tune with it. You tune yourself with the Chinmaya Mission pledge. So then automatically there is progress in life. This is all very practical. That is all I'm trying to bring it out. So Mana Arpita Buddhi must be Mano Arpita Buddhi. Mano and Maya. That Maya only I'm expanding. God is not only in he is formless, we know. He is the all past, all gunas. So where then are we going to search for this Lord? How to connect the mind and intellect with Maya Arpita? So tuning to satsang, tuning to him, his teachings, his knowledge, his directions. So that is the tuning part is very important. Without the tuning, it is not possible for gaining or attaining him. Coming to Abhyasa, Abhyasa, practice. You are good in what you practice. And Gurudev, so many speakers have spoken about this word Abhyasa. Patanjali Yoga Sutra also talks about Abhyasa and Vairagya importance for Chitta Vritti Nirodha. In 6th chapter, we have studied about, although admitting that it is difficult to control the mind, it is possible. Abhyasena Vairagyena cha grahyati. You can grasp it. So it Abhyasa. Abhyasa, beautiful definition Gurudev given. Yoga, Abhyasa and yoga. Yoga is integration. So by just like all the other yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Abhyasa Yoga, there is no mention about this in anywhere in the Vedas. It is only coming out of the master poet Veda Vyasa, Veda Vyasa. That's what Gurudev says. And Abhyasa, very simple definition Gurudev has given. Whenever the mind is wandering, immediately that time you bring it back to the point of contemplation. This is your practice. This is Abhyasa. Because it is nature of the mind to wander away. Where? In the seat of meditation. How? Anuchintayan. Anuchintayan and Abhyasa are connected. Means for Anuchintayam is Abhyasa. If you are strong in Abhyasa, Anuchintayam will happen. This is the connection between the two. Na Anya Gamina, not other, not any other, Anya, other, Gamina area. But Abhyasa is Abhyasa Yuktena Chetasa. Mind has to be steadfast through Abhyasa. So what exactly is the practice you have to do? Whenever the mind is going away, immediately you bring it back. Away from what? From the point of contemplation, the theme of contemplation. So the dissimilar thoughts and similar thought patterns are being discussed here. We've also seen, so Sajati, the word used, Ajay explains Sajati, Tulya, Tulya means exactly, tuned to. So whenever you are going away, that time immediately by your yanti, by your effort alone, it is possible. Therefore, you alone can change your life. Very beautiful statement I read somewhere in that, behind the windscreen of a car. You alone can change your life. Yanta abhyasaha. The word is there also in Patanjali. Yanta, yanti, effort. By your effort only you can bring this abhyasa. Therefore, for the time being, what we have to concentrate is only our effort. And then anuchintaya is very important. Gurudev says, underline that word. What exactly is anuchintaya? We will study further. And for the support or props given for this anuchintaya, unbroken thought of the Lord, where while we are doing this work in this world. Example given is the milkmaid carrying all the pots. She is walking, balance is maintained. She is walking and talking, everything is going on around her. But the constant thought of balancing the pots, beautiful example, way of the Gopikas working. They're all doing the work. Krishna is going on around. So that's a brief message of how I have understood this. And the coming verses is very important, 9, 10 and so on, are going to help this abhyasa and the anuchintayan aspect of our spiritual practices. Sadguru Nath Maharaj ki jai. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Kumarji, couple of minutes remaining. You can commence with the closing prayers.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchid dukha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityunma Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Let us take our place. We stand as one family, bound with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined,
Ever ready to fight again. All low tendencies within and without us.
We live honestly the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace, keep us on the path of virtue, courage, and wisdom. May Thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Son. We know our responsibilities, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
You.
Hari Om. Thank you.